You're watching It's Bible Time, where
We're in.
read from the Bible and say words about it.
You're here.
Welcome to It's Bible Time, where I read from the Bible and say words about it. That's a yin-yang symbol. Whenever you see a yin-yang symbol, it doesn't matter if you know absolutely nothing about it and you don't know what it means or anything. Your responsibility is to become viscerally upset and say, no, not on my watch. Yeah, no, for real. I want to talk to you about, in the Buddhist custom, there's a benevolent idea illustrated like this, which identifies a structural component of the universe. You can think of it as a scientific symbol just as much as you can a religious symbol. That is a fair assessment. So the idea of yin-yang is sort of like looking at a mountain. The mountain consists of both a side that is illuminated as well as a side that isn't. So a shadow as well as the light. Yin-yang can also be thought of as up, down, positive, negative, in, out, plus, minus. Stand freaking out. So you can't have one without the other. Light implies dark, positive implies negative, in implies out, up implies down. So like, what is it anyways? Are those like fish? Are they fighting each other? Are they dancing? Are they Tweedledee and Tweedledum? What's going on? Well, this symbol illustrates chaos and control. What does yin-yang and the Bible have to do with one another? Well, that is what I am here to talk to you about. Now, before we continue, let's do ourselves the light and dark contrast, good and bad contrast is probably not going to good versus evil. Yeah, we'll get to that. Oh, of course, we're missing the most important part. So like yin-yang represents allegedly the structure of the universe in its geometrical design. So how can we apply yin-yang to the Bible? Kind of had this thought. I've been kind of pondering this for about a week or two now, so I thought, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So throughout the Old Testament, especially the Exodus, them Jews are always experiencing persecution. Things just don't ever seem to be going their way. And so, in many ways, the story of the Bible can be summarized effectively as the escape from slavery into liberation. And then liberation from even one's own group, self. We'll get there. So, the Jews, they're always trying to not be enslaved. And so it's a constant oppression from outsiders onto the people group who are constantly with the wings of the eagle thing. Their high priests talk to God in between the space of the whatever. This is accurate. So the eagle, what's the thing called? I'll put it at the bottom. So this thing and they go into a room with smoke and they look at it, and then in between it, in a small location, that's where the voice of God is heard and then transcribed and then written from the Jews, who are constantly in a state of looking for liberation and outside of human oppression, which seems to be the default state of existence. Oppression, tyranny, overpowering structure outside of democratic process. That's the default. Democracy is the thing. Democracy is far from the historical default. Although one could argue that egalitarian communities have been a prevalent part of human history, one could also argue the opposite pretty easy. So the Jews, because they're oppressed, are constantly in a state of aiming towards higher liberation, better structure, and ways of being. So they're the best. Psychologically, they're the ones that you would want that understanding to be the narrative for the basis of all, assuming you have to have one, and you do, for the structural component of civilization that's allegedly, debatably, the highest, the best. So the story of the Old Testament is these people groups constantly escaping oppression and tyranny and building order. Let's do order and chaos. Constantly building order in order to keep themselves from the slavery of one's, stupidity, getting bitten by snakes, just running into a flame. I don't know. Praying to a golden calf instead of doing something that makes sense. I don't know. Because a golden calf is just like, it's tangible, it's there. It's not a very far aim. Yeah, alright. So the Jews, they create order and structure, the Ten Commandments, and all of the things, the Leviticus law, and they build a harmonious structure of civilization. And all things considered, the Jews and the Christians would say did the best at having done so, which is a pretty powerful argument. So throughout the Old Testament, this is the Jews right there. Let's say those are the Jews, and this is the oppression and slavery and hardship and all the things, the escaping of slavery and tyranny and everything like that. And so the Jews are the good, looking for the betterment within the slavery. And right, you get the idea. So then, fast forward, and what happens? We get a very, very unexpected narrative. That narrative is that of Jesus Christ, who was thought to have been a militia, military type individual who was completely on the side of the religious elite, who would go with the flow, who would save the Jews, and the Jews would love him. No, what they get is they get a medicine man, not a warrior, riding on a donkey and not a horse. Some celebrity feeding hungry people, not an actual solution according to the Jewish people. Not all of them, but enough to get them killed. So then Jesus comes along from within the order and the structure, the laws, the governmental system, as well as the religious system. We go from here to here, and then Jesus is the yin within the yang, if I'm saying that correctly, becoming a harsh critic of Jewish interpretation of law, Jewish interpretation of living, and rendering of scripture, and ways of being, that all of the order that was created from the oppression of slavery has became the very thing in which begins to enslave the protagonist, Jesus, who, instead of running a harsh criticism of the Roman occupation, goes after his own people, goes after his own church, his own government. Fast forward, that same narrative infiltrates the Roman occupation, infiltrates the Romans. This Jesus character, this narrative and story of Jesus becomes a Roman story, infiltrating that system as a type of self-analyzing, self-rendering type structure capable of working within and still not contorting the overall narrative or understanding of its time, of his time. So then Jesus becomes the chaos, the dark, the evil, the bad guy from within all of the good. And this is explicitly from within the narrative. The dude goes and flips all the church's stuff, flips all of their things, gets himself prosecuted under the law, and then murdered happily, handed over by the church into the hands of people who would take care of him. Jesus became, although simultaneously the hero, which was not evident at the time, was the villain, was the shadow, was the bad, was the chaos from within the order. On that cross, he became a curse. Cursed is a man who hangs from a tree, or I think I got that right. So he became the chaos from within the control. And so how misunderstood the narrative is of Jesus being this bright and shining, how misunderstood the structure. Jesus lays a blueprint for what it means for us to be Christians. I had a pastor, a Christian pastor at a Christian church who was a Buddhist, a bodybuilding, vegetarian, double degree, black belt Buddhist Christian pastor. I was Woody and he was Buzz Lightyear. No one will ever be cooler than him. I had the best mentor in the universe. That's right, you should be jealous. Anyways, he talked about one of his teachers who was very close to retirement, who was having disagreements from the church, from within the church, saying that they just, were doing the thing that they do. Order, structure, just the narrative, just the human way that things be, no matter who be doing it. Some just gonna be happening, so you want it to be happening the best way, and there's just no avoiding it. So anyways, this dude is pretty close to retirement, and instead of, he did the whole Jesus thing. He did the whole, it was just like, this is just what we do. This is just like the Christian thing. I'm gonna quit and tell everybody what they need to hear. I have no idea who this guy is, but I remember Mark talking about it and it just being like, this is just what we Christians be doing type deal. So anyways, Christians in their culture, they think they're this. They think they're the bright, shining, orderly figure from within the cold, oppressive culture of heathens and wrongdoers. When it is very much within our narrative structure that no, we are the thing that goes within the order and the structure and works from within it and then gets eaten by it and transforms the order. That's what we do as Christians, fundamentally, across the board, with government, with religion, with this is the structure of what we do. This is Isaiah 45:7. God. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. You, heavens above, rain down my righteousness. Let the clouds shower it down. INRI motivation. Trailblazer motivation. It's definitely a thing. That's definitely a thing.